Welcome back, everyone, to the Club Iron podcast. As you can clearly see from the camera, I am on my own today. Myself and Alex have started doing more personal solo episodes, and this is going to give you a chance to get to know us on a more interpersonal level, and it's also going to give us a chance to sort of tell our own stories and talk about topics that mean a lot to us. Today I'm going to be talking about childhood obesity. This was something that I went through on my own, and it's also something that I struggled with for quite a while. And I'm going to also obviously speak about the lessons that it taught me and why I think that me being an obese child was ultimately quite a good thing. Now, where did it come from, childhood obesity? It's quite hard to pinpoint this because obviously I can't pinpoint an exact moment where I was, obese. But I was incredibly fat as a child. And I had such terrible habits. I would sit at home eating junk food, playing Xbox with the boys, eating just like loads of crap basically. And I wouldn't say that my parents allowed it because it's not their fault I was fat, it's my fault. And I don't know why, I don't know where that came from. My parents tried to get me into physical activity like rugby and football, and I did even play football for a couple of years when I was a child, but obviously I was in goals because I was the size of them nearly, and I was fat all throughout, sorry, that was just my WhatsApp. I was quite fat all throughout school, from the ages of, I would say, 8 to about 16, and it taught me a lot about myself because obviously the whole thing about being fat gave me some big insecurities about myself, and I felt awful. I wouldn't say I was bullied in school because I was a bit of a bully myself. I mean, one of my friends has actually compared me to Cartman of South Park, and I've got to be honest, those comparisons are quite true. I was fat myself, and I was also making fun of other people for being fat. So I can't say I was bullied. I was just more teased about my weight. And as much as I didn't show this in school that it got me down, it really did. I was just constantly grabbing my stomach and the surrounding areas, just like feeling really degraded about my body. Now, why did my parents allow this to happen? Like I said, it's not their fault. And I think they allowed it to happen because they could see that I was quite a happy child, because I was. And my parents would always do the best for me. My mother and my father always did the best for me when I was a child. I remember when I used to go shopping with my father after school every weekend on a Friday, and we'd go to KFC and then we'd go to Tesco, and I would just like eat crap. I think it was hard to avoid, to be honest with you. Unless, I think when you're a child, you can go one of two ways. You can either become really active as a child and play a lot of sports, like rugby, football. I mean, we see exceptional athletes start their journeys in sports from quite a young age. I think you can go one of two ways. You can either go down like the route of being like, in bad shape and having terrible eating habits because you're not entrenched in a sport, or you can go the other way and you can be a successful athlete, and you could do things like swimming or rugby or boxing. And I just wasn't that way inclined. As a child, I was always inclined to just lie around the house, do nothing, not go outside, not play football with my mates. I was just playing Xbox all the time, and I was just playing all these games all the time. And that's what I think led to it, to be honest with you. And it got to a point where I was like so fat that I had a KFC on the Friday, like I previously said, and then the next day I went to the Domino's on a Saturday, and my dad actually lied to me saying that Domino's was closed, and that I couldn't have one. And then we drove past the next day and it was open, and I was like, Dad, I'm pretty sure they were open. And he turned around and told me, oh, they were closed for maintenance. But then, weeks down the line, he just said that he saw my weight was getting out of hand, and he felt bad, and that I shouldn't have had a Domino's because of how bad my weight was getting. And Alex will say this to you as well. I mean, I was fat. I was a chunky child, and it really got me down sometimes. But I'm actually very thankful for being a fat child. It gave me a lot of self-confidence issues. It gave me a lot of body image issues. It's definitely affected my eating now, because I still feel like some of those effects from being an overweight child have still carried on throughout today. Like overeating, like sometimes I have a habit of overeating. I don't understand why this is still here, because of like how different my life is now compared to then. So that's a bit of an everlasting effect of childhood obesity. Now, why did I make the change, and when did I make the change? To be completely honest with you, and I'll go into this now in a different podcast, because this is a topic in and around itself. But martial arts was my changing point, my turning point even, and more specifically, boxing. I did boxing as part of my Duke of Ed scheme. I think, if you're from the UK, chances I know what the Duke of Ed scheme is. It's just a scheme they have in school where you have a skill, a physical activity, and then I think it's a charity act. So mine was boxing, I think. But if it wasn't boxing, it was definitely gym, because I remember that around the time of doing Duke of Ed, I really started to lose weight. And I was starting to become known in school as just going to the gym all the time, and then I just started losing weight. And this got to a bad level, because I was so focused on being skinny and just losing weight that I just wasn't really prioritizing my training. And I can definitely remember some situations back in the day when I was suffering as a result of just wanting to be skinny and just wanting to lose loads of weight. And I did eventually lose loads of weight, and I was in quite good shape. Now, what made me click? What was the clicking moment for me? I think it was one day when I was looking in the mirror and I just saw like stretch marks, and just like I could like peel up the fat with my hand that was on my stomach, and I was just thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, what actually am I doing with my life? Like, why am I such a fat child? And why am I continuing to eat this way? And I felt kind of sick. It, like, looking back on it now, and it sickens me to actually think that I was like that. And I'm kind of worried that there are some long-term impacts of my childhood obesity. Psychologically, the long-term impacts have been quite positive, but physically, the long-term impacts are quite unknown, which is quite worrying, because obviously being overweight is no good for your heart. And I'm thinking, is it going to have an impact on my heart? Probably not, but I mean, there is always that factor that it has. Now, I think being obese really taught me a lot. It taught me to sort of get over myself and have a lot of self-confidence. I would probably say that I'm quite a confident person now, and that's probably because of my physical transformation. I lost confidence last year because I went into like a bulk where I was just eating loads of crap. And admittedly, I got fat again. But when I was younger, like, I could just remember just being like it sort of blocked out as well, which is worrying. I don't know if that's because it was quite traumatic, and looking at myself every day and just looking like a mess. But when I was younger, we used to go to like the LC2 in Swansea, the leisure centre, and we used to go swimming. And I used to take a wet, like a, what are they called? What's the word? I used to take like a wetsuit top, and I used to put it on because I was scared to show everyone my body. I was scared to be seen out in public with fat on me. And I used to lie to everyone. I used to say, "Oh, I've just got like scars on my back," which was obviously a lie. I was just fat. I was too scared to show my front, not my back. And it got to a point where one of my friends, his mother's, was actually concerned about me before. I remember he told me this not too long ago, actually, maybe a couple of months ago, and he said that my mother used to think that you were in danger when you were younger. And I believe that she said that, is Matthew aware that he is going to be putting himself in a bit of danger if he carries on eating and being like the way he is? Because obviously I was not helping myself. And I'm so thankful for this, and I don't want to go off on a tangent. I keep jumping between topics because that's what I'm doing here, but it's really making me think. I am actually quite glad that this has happened to me. well, I say happened to me, I did it myself, but I'm quite glad that I put myself through this sort of traumatic experience of being fat. Like, I know it's not the worst traumatic experience to have as a child, and I'm pretty sure there are people in circumstances that think, God, I'd love to have that problem, I'd love to be fat. You know, maybe people who couldn't eat when they were a child because of their families not being able to provide for them, and there are some truly horrific situations, and I'm making it out as if my situation is the worst, but really it was just a case of me being too greedy and fat and just having KFC, Domino's, McDonald's all the time and eating chocolates. And looking back, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, how was I like that? And it's like my mind has just done a complete 180 since I was a child. Like, nowadays, me and Alex are like into like biohacking and body optimization and optimizing our nutrition, and we're like, how can we really optimize our nutrition here, and how can we get the most of ourselves? But like, I was never like that as a child, which is weird. But I am glad it happened, because it's taught me now to what I need to not do, the habits I need to not have, the habits that I should have. You know, like not drinking. I don't drink full sugar Coke really at all. I might have 1 or 2 glasses if I go out for food, but I was literally drinking that stuff like it was water back in the day. And it was also not good for my teeth as well, and I had a lot of plaque probably from that. And nowadays I drink a lot of water, and I'm quite the opposite. So there's obviously some habits that I've shifted from that, and I'm thankful mainly because of it forced me to undergo a journey, and that is a fitness journey of losing weight and restricting my food and eating less and moving more. And that is probably one of the best journeys to go on as a young man. I mean, you know, if you're a young man, you either go on the journey of bulking, you know, like one of my friends Lloyd has. Like, he was very, very small, and now he's in absolutely fantastic shape. And it's a shape that I look at and I'm like, shit, what a shape. And, you know, a few of us think that as well. You can either go his way or you can go my way, which is being a fat child and trying to lose it. And it was even to the point where we used to have competitions in school of like who was fatter. Like me and my friends had one of my friends had a competition of who was fatter, and obviously it wasn't a competition you wanted to win, it was a competition you wanted to lose, if you know what I'm trying to say. So I would be like, oh, you're fatter than me, and he'd be like, no, you're fatter than me, and stuff. And it was just, I'm like looking back and I'm like thinking, what was I doing? Like, why was I like that? But like I said, I'm glad it happened to me because of the journey that it forced me to go on. And it forced me to struggle, and it forced me to shift my mindset. And that's why I think I am the way I am today. That's why I like to sacrifice things and avoid instant gratification at all costs. It's probably down to the fact that I was fat and I had to lose weight, because if there's one thing I learned from having to go through that fitness journey and lose weight, it's consistency. I have to consistently do the same thing over and over and over again to get results. And it just lit an internal fire inside me that still to this day burns bright. You know, I remember when I was trying to lose weight as a child, I say child, like 15, 16, 17 years old, I would be in the gym every day. I'd be in the gym Friday nights when all my friends were out, and it really forced me into the path of consistency and consistent training, which is something that I'm ever thankful for. And this is what you've got to do. You've got to think about your future self with your daily actions, and to sort of go away from the whole childhood obesity thing now and to talk about the present and the past. You've got to think of yourself when you carry out your daily actions. You know, are the actions that you're doing right now? I'm just going to grab some water. Right. Are the actions that you're taking right now, are they going to be beneficial, or are they going to harm your future self? Now, that's a concept that you should think about always, because you should always want to do the best for your future self, and you should always want to be in a position where you thank your past self for setting up your future self. So what I mean by that is, let's take me from 6 months ago. 6 months ago from now, where I was quite large. I was quite fat, actually. And I was doing actions and undertaking actions that meant that the future me of 3 months from then would be horrified by, and I'd be in a position where I'd think, what was I doing? Whereas 3 months ago to now, I'm thanking myself from 3 months ago. 3 months ago is when I started my fitness journey with PB, being coached by them, and every action I was taking there was setting up my future self. Now you've got to ask yourself when you wake up every morning, are my actions today going to benefit or take away from the opportunity that my future self will have to be better? Am I going to be worse off or better off due to my decisions? And really, that's the core of decision making. Was my 16-year-old self, or maybe, was my 10 to 16-year-old self thinking about my future self and thinking, oh, in 7 years' time, is Matthew going to look good? No, I was thinking about the there and then. And that's the thing with it. This links in as well to instant gratification as well, because if you instantly gratify yourself now, then in the future you're actually harming yourself. You're doing long-term harm, but you don't think about that because you're thinking about the moment. For example, I'm on zero carbs. Well, I say zero carbs, low carb now. Sorry, and I know that these results, the suck that I'm going through right now. I say this as if I've been on like a 6-week prep of no carb. I've done 1 day, but anyway, my point being, me in 2 days is in 3 days when I make weight for my fight is going to be thankful that I embraced that suck and I didn't go, oh, do you know what, Alex, let's get a Domino's or a McDonald's tonight. And that's what you've got to think about every day. When you wake up, you've got a decision to make. Am I going to benefit myself in the future, or am I going to harm myself? And that's really what you need to do. Now, I've said this a few times in the space of 3 minutes because I really want to emphasize this. And this is what the childhood obesity thing has taught me. It's taught me that I need to think of my future self. Invest in your future. People say you're never guaranteed a future, right? But that's a negative way of looking at it. Wouldn't you want to invest in your future so that you can have the best possible future that you can have? And that's what childhood obesity taught me, that I need to think of myself in the future rather than the present. And this is why I would consider myself quite good at avoiding instant gratification these days. I don't instantly gratify myself. I delay the gratification. I sacrifice the things. Because in order for you to have what other people don't have in life, like an amazing fitness transformation, an amazing fitness journey, really good at self-esteem and a good positive image within yourself internally, you've got to do the things that other people won't do. You've got to have the good diet, you've got to have the good solid workout routine, the consistency. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen, and you're not gonna get there. Right, where was I? Yeah, so in order to get the things in life that no one else has, the consistent gym routine, the good body, the positive mental attitude, and the great self-image, you've got to do what other people can't and other people won't. And every day when you wake up, you have a choice whether you're going to do that or you're going to stay the same. Now, that's what ultimately childhood obesity taught me, is that I needed to make a choice between whether I wanted to stay like this and take the easy road and take the instant gratification, or if I wanted to actually challenge myself, delay gratification, think of my future self and really go somewhere. And that's what I've learned from it, and I'm grateful for those lessons. And I'm grateful for all the humiliation and negative self-images I had, negative self-attitude I had, and the negative mindset that I was always in when I was fat. And I'll never be back there because it's taught me, and I've gone over a bridge that I can't cross again, and I'm never going to go back to being like that. And that's all my thoughts expressed to you, really. This has been a nice episode. I've quite enjoyed this, and I hope that you have taken some value from this. Maybe a lot of you will not be able to relate to this, But there might be some aspects of this that you might relate to, maybe the negative mental attitude that you had as a child and how you've improved that. You know, I said about my friend Lloyd being skinny and then bulking up. Maybe you went through that. I don't know, but I hope you've found some value in this, and I hope you enjoy these sort of solo episodes, because I've enjoyed recording this, and it's been nice to actually speak to the camera and just sit here and look at myself and speak. We're going to get more of these out, I think. Not entirely sure on the frequency of these yet, but we are going to be doing more of these, and I'm going to share some personal topics that are important to me, because, you know, this business is 50% me and 50% Alex. So we need to express what matters to us and what values we hold, and the stories that we have, because I mean, I haven't had an eventful life as per such, but I've had a lot of lessons, especially as of late, and I've gone through a lot that I want to share and hopefully help some people, because I would love to give back to people who listen to this and people who support us, because, you know, without you, then we haven't got an audience, and without an audience, we haven't got anyone to speak to, which wouldn't be very nice. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this solo episode. If you have, let us know. There is actually, if you're listening to this on Spotify, there is actually a little feedback comment section type of thing, where you can leave your thoughts about the episode. If you hated it, if you enjoyed it, if you thought I was talking shit, or you didn't really find any value in what I said, then feel free to comment down below. I am not bothered if you do not enjoy this, because it's something I felt I wanted to do, and I'll take your feedback on board. If I can change it a certain way to make it better for the viewers, then I will, and I'm sure Alex will do the same. Obviously I'm in his studio now, but he isn't here, but I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you have, let us know, and if you haven't, equally let us know. But that's it from me today, guys. That's all I've got to say to you. I'm not entirely sure on the frequency of when this will be out, and I'm not sure when the next one of my solo episodes will be out, but it'll probably be out sooner than I think. But if you've enjoyed, that's good, and this is me signing off. I will see you in the next episode.